Pretty good.
And we welcome you to the Davenport University Football Signing Day Special from the Davenport University Student Center in Grand Rapids. I'm Rick Berkey, along with the head coach, Sparky McEwen, talking about his third recruiting class coming in here. It's an exciting day. Coach, a lot of folks talk about, the early signing day, which affects mostly the D1 prospects. A few of them maybe trickle through. But for Division II, this is probably the biggest day of the year.
Yeah, this is the biggest day of the year for us. But back to what you said, there's so many different dates now. You never know. And I know it's a possibility of us going to that multiple signing date as well. So that's a vote that the coaches will be looking at taking here. But for now, this is a big day for us because this is the next batch of Panthers that'll be coming in. This is a group that, people talk about classes and, how good they are. You never know how good a class is until, you get them into your program and you do some player development and things like that. But we're excited about this group, a lot of potential.
We'll be checking our phones as we go here because they may get a few signings while we've got this going on here. But let's talk a little bit about the overall philosophy, Sparky, coming into this one. Got a nice win to finish up the season, and the season wasn't all that you'd hope for, but there were a lot of shining prospects about last year going into the offseason.
It was a good year for us, and as a staff we look at the GLIAC and how tough this conference is. You had Ferris State that went on to the semifinals, and when you see teams like that in the GLIAC going as far in the tournament as they have, and having success and being in the rankings, and just knowing the last 2 years we've been just one of 4 teams with a non-losing record, and that's that's a testament to the players, to the coaches, to everyone that's involved in the program. But we really feel like it's time to take that next step, and we've been patient. We understand that it's a new program, and certain things have to be in place in order for you to be successful. And lots of credit goes off to the boys because they come out every week and they play hard. And this is big for us. This is our third group. And the first group is a group that, this coming year, you're going to see a roster be impacted by those guys through development.
Let's talk specifically about how your approach was position-wise. Was there one or two areas you said we really got to be strong in this area, maybe more than another couple of positions?
I lost some players on the defensive side of the ball, and one of the issues that we've run into, and as expected, is depth. Okay, so we've gone into this offseason, whether it be, by way of high school athletes or transfer / community college kids. So we've got our share group in, and this has been the best group of transfers that we've had come in, and we've had a very solid high school class coming in. But a major part of our focus was on the defense side of the ball. For this signing period.
At this point, again, things can change over the next 24, 48 hours, Sparky, but right now you're about a 2-to-1 high school to transfer ratio, 2 parts high school, 1 part transfer. Is that kind of a ratio you shoot for, or does it strictly go year to year by what the needs and what's out there?
Well, right now, when you think about what's happening here at Davenport University, we've been thrust on the scene and on the GLIAC landscape. And part of that is, we want to go out there and put a product out that our university can be proud of. We've gone into every game and we've competed hard, and our guys have upheld a standard that we're looking forward to. Typically, you want to build your team through the 4-year high school players. That's what we look to do. So that's where you see the 2-to-1 to 3-to-1 ratio. And so those are the ones that's in your program through player development. Those are the ones that you're going to end up obviously winning championships with. Now the beautiful thing is, with the transfer portal, with the community college transfers, you have the opportunity to bridge the gap in talent. Okay, because there is a huge talent disparity in this league because our league is the best league in the country. So, we got to make sure that we're going out there to compete and not embarrassing ourselves.
Let's talk a little bit about the transfer situation just so the audience understands. A lot of the audience is familiar with the D1 rules, where in most cases you transfer, you have to sit out a year. Different rules in D2 as far as when a player can come in and play right away.
Well, there's a number of different rules. What we deal with here at Davenport University, we'll deal with the community college transfers, guys that's going to come in, they'll have 2 or 3 years left to participate. We'll also have what you call the 4-year transfers, guys that's had two years under their belt, 3 years under their belt. They may have 1 year left to play. And then we have what we call graduate transfers, guys that have already attained their degree and now have 1 or 2. If you hit the lottery, you get that guy like Ford that had 2 years left after he had his undergrad.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've had some good success with a couple of graduate transfers that have come in here for maybe 1 year. Ford, you got 2, and have certainly added a lot to your program.
Absolutely. You need to have, like I said, once again, we all like to look at the game on Saturday, but there's a lot that goes into the preparation for the season and getting these guys in here, because we can get all the players we want in here, but, they've got to be able to come in and get along as a group, okay, and learn and understand that, it's a team effort that's going to help win ball games and ultimately championships.
As we go on, we'll talk a little bit more about the schedule, when spring ball starts, when the spring game is, and even the 2020 fall schedule is now out. We'll talk about that. But we're going to start running down them, and we're going to do it in a certain order so you can kind of follow along at home if you can. We're going to go with the transfers first on the defensive side, then the offensive side, and then we'll go to the high school side and go with them. And Sparky, let's start out with a guy that already is getting a lot of buzz around the campus area. Young man who played for the University of Michigan, Elise Mbose. And I apologize if I butchered his name already.
No, you're correct. What a find for us here. He's a young man that's come here, and he's already here, and he's getting ready with the players. He's a linebacker. Kai Black has done a great job for us the last 2 years, anchoring the middle. And it's hard to replace, a player like that. But, when you land a catch, like this, a guy that was a 4-star coming out of, high school in Georgia. He goes on to the University of Michigan, and he was, he was in there too deep. We've got him for 2 years, and I tell you what, it's been a treat. It has absolutely been a treat. A very, very mature young man. He holds the guys, makes sure they're accountable to things, and you can tell he's a difference maker. Already, he's sent shockwaves through the team on just his leadership alone, so we're very excited about him.
And he was the 20th ranked inside linebacker in the nation coming out of high school in Georgia, second best linebacker in Georgia, and the kind of football they play down there. Another defensive transfer coming in, Jaquan Nicholson from Ellsworth College.
We're excited about him. When it comes
Another transfer, this one from Indiana State University, another defensive lineman, Tier Turner.
I call him T-squared. This guy right here, this is going to be one that our fans are going to enjoy. We've got him here for 3 years. He was a guy that was at Indiana State. A number of GLIAC teams was after him in the recruiting period.
Transfer, this one in the defensive backfield from the University of Mary, Darren Cotton.
Cotton's one that if you take a look at, he's listed here, we've got him listed at 6'5". He's every bit of that, and he is a defensive back. So, we want to go out and obviously line up with teams that can compete in the GLIAC. When you have those bigger receivers, you want to have a guy, of this size that's able to play against the bigger body guys, and he's got 3 years left as well.
All right, we can switch over to the offensive side for a couple of transfers. First one from California, Pennsylvania, quarterback Brian Alsobrooks.
Brian, we talked with Brian quite a bit. There was a number of teams vying for come here and you got to perform, and there's going to be a open quarterback fight for that job here this spring. And I'm excited for, Brian to come in here and compete.
Brian had a terrific high school career at Livonia Churchill before going to Cal PA to start. Also transferring an all-state high school wide receiver from American River College in California. You keep that California pipeline going, Coach, with Eric Davis.
Eric Davis, he's the guy that's going to replace our favorite,
Nate Couturier.
Yeah, when we graduated Nate, we lost a lot of production, but we've got a guy here in ED. We feel like he can come in here. You want to talk about a guy that's going to get in the end zone, okay? Our fan base, they're going to be excited to know that we've landed a guy that could step in with a couple of our other slots and give us some depth and some goal power, some speed, some quickness, so we're able to complete balls underneath and do some things.
Before we get to the high school, people that have signed, I mention again, the spring game is April 4th. That's a Saturday at 2 o'clock. And you want to get out and enjoy that. But let's talk a little bit about, before we get that, what will take place in spring practice leading up to the spring game, when you'll start, and exactly what will go on for the next couple of months.
Well, what happens now, this is a big time for us. I'm so excited that, now we get to put aside the recruiting efforts and we get to focus on the roster that we have here. This is the largest roster that we've returned since I've been here. And that's important going into to spring football. Last year going to spring football, we had like 8 offensive linemen. This year we're going to spring football, we have 15. We returned pretty much our entire offense. We lost, besides Nate and Keon, pretty much everyone else returns on offense, so we're excited about that. This is the most depth and experience that we've returned. So, my thoughts is that this offense is going to begin to look more like what I've been wanting from day one when I accepted the job. So, player development is a big time for us, and then obviously on the defensive side, defense is what's been carrying us, and we continue to look for that trend to continue to happen.
You mentioned the offensive line. It wasn't that long ago, Coach, just a couple of years, because you were decimated by injuries, and you were just grabbing guys saying, hey, can you play offensive line? And now you mentioned 15 offensive linemen. That's fantastic depth.
And with that 15 that we've got returning, we've got a nice class of high school kids coming in, and then we have a couple more transfers that we're going to plug in there also to compete.
All right, let's head over to some of the high schools, student athletes who have signed with Davenport. We'll start on the offensive side. Wide receiver from Jones High School in Orlando, Florida, Jaden Robinson.
You want to talk about a guy that's electric. He's going to remind you of Cody Blankenberg. When you get those little guys, you can't get too many of them, okay? But when you find one, anytime you wear number 1 in Florida, okay, that means that you're legit. This guy right here, he's a hiccup. Don't blink, because he'll take it to the house on you. So we're excited about him. We've got a pipeline there in Florida, and actually we've got 7 or 8 players that we signed in this class out of Florida.
Jaden, a nice 13.5 yard per catch last year in his senior year of high school, and 13 touchdowns in Florida. Next on the offensive side, signing a high school from nearby in West Michigan. Young man I saw play one game this year from Fruitport High, Ethan Flores.
Ethan's a dual sport athlete. He's gonna play football, but he's gonna also play run track as well. We're excited about him. Another guy that's just, he'll take the top off the defense. Our hopes is that he comes in here and that he'll end up playing on the offense side of the ball, but he's such a good athlete. Don't be shocked if this is a guy that could eventually line up over and play some corner as well.
He ran kickbacks in college. Are you going to look at him at kick returner also? I mean, high school rather?
Yeah, if he can help us put an end zone, we're going to look at him.
Yeah, why not? All right, let's stay on the offensive side. Again, the wide receiver position. Boy, a lot of good wide receivers coming in to wear the red and black. We're going to talk about Ryan Tamati from Dearborn High School and from the east side.
He comes from a program that's well coached, and they do a great job of preparing their kids for college. He's another young man that's going to come in and compete in, for a specialist position, a slot position, very tough. Don't get it confused because he's a smaller guy, but he's shown his toughness throughout his career.
State champion in track also.
Absolutely. That's one of the things, Rick, we went into this thing. We wanted to continue to raise our team speed. One of the things that after we evaluated, tape here and we looked at the teams in our conference, and we felt like we needed to get better and as far as a talented team, but also as far as a fast team.
All right, now where's the beef, as they say. Again, from Dearborn, also from Dearborn Heights, Michigan, Zane Bazi, an offensive lineman.
He's an offensive lineman that we feel that after this coming year, in our 2 deep, we're going to have a number of seniors that we're going to graduate. So we actually have 4 to 5 linemen that we've signed in this class, with a couple more that we're still after at this point. But there's a young man that's aggressive. It's an intense football player. And like I said, once again, from that high school, here's a guy that's well coached. Okay, so we expect him to step right in and compete right away.
You mentioned the intensity. He had 21 pancake blocks in high school. That's a lot.
He's a little undersized, and so we had to watch film on him quite extensively and do our homework on him, because we wanted to make sure he could fill out and play in the GLIAC and handle the GLIAC. But when you take a look at a guy on his film, on his tape, and he's got pancake blocks, there's something to that, to take a man in a football game and put him on his back. But he's our O-line coach, he's excited about him. His coach in high school is excited about him coming. So we feel like we got a steal on him.
All right, you mentioned a little undersized in the offensive line, and your strength and conditioning coaches will work with him and increase that. When you have a young man like that, Sparky, are there specific goals saying, okay, this year we want him at this weight, by his next year we want him at that weight? Is that spelled out, or do you go year by year?
We typically it's year by year, and we typically go in and we evaluate these young guys with our strength and conditioning coach, Greg Martin. And we talk about guys that need to lose weight. We'll talk about guys that need to gain weight. And just losing it, we want to do it the healthy way. And if you gain it, we want to do it the healthy way. So these are all things and goals that we must meet as a staff. And when we project these guys, that they're going to step in and be impact players for us down the road.
You mentioned your strength and conditioning coach, Greg Martin. I hear a lot of players talk to me and talk very highly about how he motivates them and keeps them right on it.
Greg is solid. He's one that's pretty consistent, and Greg is a guy that, he stands strong in his beliefs, and he's done a pretty good job with our guys and holding them accountable. They know what they can expect out of Greg.
All right, let's stay with the offensive line from Midland, an all-state offensive lineman, Solomon Thomas.
Solomon's one that we feel like we got a guy, when you look at him on film, here's a guy that shows a tremendous amount of ability and potential. Here's one that I think can come in here. What a well-respected young man. His family's done a great job with him. We think that this guy's got a bright future here, and he just loves DU. So we're excited about him.
Well, his high school coach will tell him he didn't allow a single sack in his entire career.
Let's hope that continues.
Yeah, the quarterbacks will love that kind of protection as well. All right, that's it for the offensive high school. Before we get to the defensive signings here, let's talk a little bit about the schedule for the fall. Again, we'll start on September 3rd. So that's the Thursday night of Labor Day weekend. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you have not played on Thursday night yet, have you?
No, not on the road, but, this would be the first. When I first arrived here, we had a home game here,
That's right.
a night game. So we'll have to travel down to Tiffin, a team that made the national playoffs. And it looks like right now, Rick, we've got one of the toughest schedules in the country. We open up, with Tiffin that made the national tournament, and we close the year out, with Truman State, which finished the season either it was 9-2 or something like that. So very tough schedule we have coming this year.
But you do have 2 home games after that opener. After Labor Day weekend, you'll have back-to-back home games on Saturday against Lake Erie on September 12th, and then the following Saturday, the 19th, against Northern Michigan.
And that's important. It's important. The Lake Erie game, you were there, obviously, and at that Lake Erie game, we had a situation happen where it came down to the last play of the game. We very easily could have lost that ball game. So they've got a new coach there, and he's got those guys playing at a high level. But it's going to be our home opener, and we hope that we can have success on that night. And then coming back, following it up the following week, we've got to play and open up the GLIAC conference. And every single game Every single game is a tough game in the GLIAC and Northern Michigan. Every game we played against them has just been, it's come down to the last couple possessions.
Let's get to the defensive side of the high school signings. Start from Belleville on the east side. Clifton Buchanan.
Clifton is, this year, just like, in our offensive line, this coming year we're going to lose a number of guys in our secondary. Okay, so therefore you want to begin to plug in some guys that's going to get that first year under their belt as a prospect to be redshirted. And if those guys are redshirted, that next year they should be ready to compete and fill in, in one of those jobs. And Clifton, he's coming from Belleville. Obviously that is a recruiter's, dream. They've put out, I don't know how many kids they've got signed across the country as of today. I'll look at those numbers, but I'll be shocked if it's less than 15. So we've been able to go over there. Crowell has done a great job, good friend of mine, and we're lucky to land a Tiger.
Another defensive back signing from the high school front. This one down from Florida, from the Orlando area, Dante Johnson.
Dante Johnson's one that we got high expectations for. We think Dante can come in here and compete right away. He's a guy that we wanted to be taller in our secondary so we can compete once again against some of these bigger teams. You got Saginaw Valley that has two outstanding outside guys. So, you better have some guys, on your perimeter that can cover and play with length.
Staying in the defensive backfield, this one from back on Detroit, from Renaissance High School, Jaden Johnson.
We feel like as a staff that here's one that, whenever you have these recruiting battles, there's some guys that actually go under the radar. We feel like this kid here went under the radar. We got one that can play in our scheme. He's a cover guy. He's a true hands-on guy. He's got great length, but more importantly, man, he can run like the wind.
And he likes to hit. 22 forced fumbles in high school.
Yeah, and then, there's tacklers and then there's hitters. He's a hitter, So now what we'll do, we'll get him in here and make sure that he learns to secure some of those tackles. But one thing, we don't have to teach is for him to strike.
Back to your Florida connections, and from Sanford High School in Sanford, Florida, Andre Johnson.
Andre, he's another young man. When you take a look at his size, we feel like he and do some good things. He's come from a good program, well coached young man, and we enjoyed him on his visit. Great character guy, got a bright future for us. 4
interceptions in high school, which is a real nice number, but one that really jumped out at me. He blocked 5 punts himself.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're excited about that because, how many games in the last 3 seasons for us have you watched it come down to special teams? Here's a guy that if we can get him in and plug him in on our special teams, he takes pride in it. So, if we plug this guy in our special teams, he has a chance of coming in and playing as a true freshman.
You mentioned, Sparky, your 3rd recruiting class, and we were talking about the guys from Florida, both at the high school and the JUCO level. By now, the high school coaches and the JUCO coaches are getting to know you pretty well down there in some areas, aren't they?
Yeah. We know a lot of those guys. Back when I've coached professionally, the Tampa Bay Storm was down there in Orlando Predators, and so I built some of those relationships. And then Lucas Mello, those are his stomping grounds, and he's our recruiting coordinator. So, by design for us, we know that, when it comes to playing high school football, they take it to a different level down there, okay? And I'm serious. They take it to a whole different, it's a religion down there. So being able to have those ties and go down there and find, talented players that's willing to come up here to Michigan and compete in our conference, that's a plus for us.
From River Rouge High School, which has got a great football program going right now, you've already had some success from that defensive back, Christian Jones.
Christian Jones, we're excited about him. Coach Parker's done a great job. Congrats to them on a state championship, the first for their program. River Rouge is a very unique community. It's a very close-knit community, and man, it's a great story on what's going on over there. And Coach Parker, he's one of the young guys, man, that gets it. He understands it, and we've had some success with some of his kids, on our roster. Cleve Jenkins, is a young man that we're expecting big things from. So, but this young man here, he's one that we feel that can come in and be in that safety role for us, that rover in the scheme that we run. And the one thing about those kids out of Rouge is that these guys, they're well coached. So part of our recruiting, we want to get them from good programs, guys that are ready to step into our program. And not only that, but take good, tough coaching.
That is 5 defensive backs that you've signed from the high school ranks. Is that more than you normally would expect to get from one class?
Well, one of the things, with these defensive backs, these guys also double as receivers, some of them. So a lot of times we'll get a guy, I'll just tell you, Rick, I actually like signing receiver/DB. I like for my DBs to catch. Sometimes you look up at defensive backs, they can't catch. Okay, but if you go get a guy that's a receiver and loves to play receiver, but he gets here, he figures it out real fast that he's probably a better defensive back. So getting 5, that's a little more, one more than what I typically would want to take. But at the same time, we talk about value. Value is important to us. If it's a guy on our board that we feel we must take, we'll take from another area that we were going to sign a kid, and we'll have an extra, what now in this case, a DB.
A West Michigan product from Mona Shores High School. Coach Koziak's outstanding program, Colby Trovinger.
Koziak, I tell you what, that's another, just like Parker. He's done a tremendous job at that program over at Mona Shores. And, I talked to Cozy, and, that state championship they got, that's awesome. That's a beautiful thing. I told him the one that mattered most to me was he was a part of our passing, tournament here. And he's won that thing now back-to-back years. So he actually won the Panther Invitational last year, and then he went on to get a second trophy, that little trophy, the State of Michigan champion. So hats off to him. He feels like we've got his best football player.
Does he
feels
really?
like we've got his best football player.
He's got some good ones.
Well, here's the deal. The guy's a little undersized, okay?
Yeah.
But when you turn on his tape, he's all over the place. He's all over the place. So at some point, you got to throw the tape measure out. You got to throw the stopwatch out, and you just got to measure a guy by his heart and his stats. This guy has more tackles on our team. He causes turnovers. He recovers fumbles. He picks balls. He returns kicks. So that's a value guy for us. So when I think of him right away, I start thinking of our special teams and how we need to continue to solidify our special teams.
92 tackles with the Sailors High School program. Outstanding number there. All right, we're staying at the linebacker position. This one back to the east side from Redford, Thurston High School, Marvis McWright.
He's from Thurston. Thurston the thumper. Okay, this guy's a thumper. You see, he's a big boy. He gets after it. We need to, once again, when you graduate a guy like Kai Black, okay, and we've got a couple other Mike linebackers. We want our guy at that Mike linebacker to be a physical specimen. Okay, he's one of those guys. When you roll the tape on him, you get excited. He's sideline to sideline. He's very physical. So he fits our scheme. Coach Walker loves him.
All right, we're going to go back to the defensive line here for a young man from Harper Woods High School in the Detroit area, Tommy Boyd.
Tommy's another guy. He's tall, he's long, he's a little thin right now. We'll be able to put weight on him. Another good friend of mine over at Harper Woods. Coach he spoke very highly of this young man. This is one where teams I felt like they missed on him. He's a classy guy. He's done well in the classroom. He's a guy that we feel he's going to get in our program. He's going to develop in our player development program, and he's going to be a guy that's going to impact our program at some point. And I'll go back and I'll recall, a couple years down the road, I'll say, remember that Boyd guy we talked about? This is the one that people missed on. He's a pass rusher. Okay, this guy knows how to get home. And so we're excited about him. And, more importantly, once again, when you're getting athletes like these kids from Harper Woods that have been well coached, these coaches have assistants that have done a heck of a job. And then it's a little easy. It makes it easier on us, for our jobs when they come in here and we develop them.
All right, let's head back to Florida, Miami, from LaSalle High School, LaFonso Ruffin.
First of all, he plays inside. He comes on his visit, and the young man, I'm staring at him. He's staring at me, and he told one of the coaches, he goes, Coach doesn't like me. So I made my way after about 2 hours of staring at him, and he goes, Coach, why don't you like me? Why do you continue to stare at me? I said, I'm trying to figure out who you are. This guy is a character. He plays inside. He can't be stopped. He's undersized. When I was staring at him, I was pretty much body typing him, trying to project what's he going to look like in 3 years? What's he going to look like in 2 years? And we just got down to the point I'm like, he can't be stopped. If you can't be stopped in Miami, you can play in GLIAC.
Also had a pick six, so he knows what to do with the football.
Well, not only did he have a pick six, but you should see how fast he was on that pick six in Miami.
Wow. That says a lot anywhere, especially, though, in South Florida. All right, speaking of Florida, we're going to stay in Orlando, Florida, Evans High School for Shamar Williams.
Versatile. He's similar to, Marvis, and he's similar to some of the other thumpers, on our team. But this young man is versatile. He's a big man. Okay, he's a big man. He's one in our technique in our defense where we can play him inside or we can play him outside. This one here has an opportunity to come in and play as a true freshman. Okay, when you have a body type, like his, it's going to be hard to hold him back, and he's very physical. So we're excited. We're excited about having him here.
Shamar had 17 sacks and 11 tackles for loss at Evans High School in Orlando. All right, Coach, again, we're going through last-minute things here. Is there anybody that we missed that I forgot to mention with all the last-minute additions and everything?
No, right now we still got a couple guys coming through. Obviously, we've been in some, recruiting wars with some of these, outstanding coaches around our area that takes this thing extremely serious, and they're after kids, trying to sign them late and get them on their roster. So, as of right now, I don't feel like we've missed any at this point, but I'm pretty sure.
Once you check your phone as we're saying that, right? But we should mention this too, because a lot of folks are watching this after we're doing this live here on signing day, but a lot of folks are watching this at a much later time. And so if any player has signed on with Davenport's football program after we recorded this, we haven't neglected you by design. They cannot talk about a player who has not signed with you. And so that's why, by rule, you're not allowed to do that.
There is another young man. It's a D lineman, Kaladi. Okay, Kaladi, Amason.
Kaladi Amason.
Yeah. He's a young man that he played at South Dakota. Okay, and I don't know how I could miss that one. He's another guy inside, inside where, once again, that I was telling you, we've got to be able to bolster the inside and make sure that we get after teams in this league. And, I'm extremely excited about him. He's versatile. He can play on the edge, but we also can play him inside. He's extremely strong, powerful young man. So getting him as a transfer as well, he's got a couple years left as well. We're excited about him.
You mentioned that in some guys inside, or sometimes you mention you want to move a guy to the outside on the line. How often is it that you got a guy that you say, I can go either way with him? I keep him inside, maybe add a little bit to him, or is it, nope, he's going to be an inside guy, or he's going to be an outside guy?
Typically, if you get a shade, if you got a guy that's going to be, we're going to talk about a guy that's going to probably weigh right around, 315 pounds, 320 pounds. Typically, he's going to play that position, okay? Our defensive staff, okay, all these guys, they actually like our 1 and 3 to be able to be interchangeable, okay? Now, is there a difference in them? Yeah, there is. Okay, there is a difference in them, and we know what we want to do with our scheme. But, you only can travel so many on the road in the GLIAC. So everyone sees those big numbers, 100 to 130 players on a team. Well, truly, you're only traveling 8 defensive linemen or 10 defensive linemen. And if you think about it, you break it down, if you take 4 defensive ends, now that number's really dwindled down on the inside. Okay, so we try to go after athletes, guys that are what we call value guys that are interchangeable. But more important to us, that here's the deal. What's important to us is speed and power. Okay, if we have speed and power, we think we got a chance every week.
All right, that wraps up the people who have signed with you. We'll close one final question here, Coach, for you. As you go into spring ball, considering what you've got coming back and what you've signed that you know is going to be here, finish this sentence. The one area that we want to get better in a lot of areas, but the one area we must get better in spring ball is
coaching.
Okay.
Coaching.
All right, you're not being flippant. Explain. Yeah.
We got to coach them up. Okay, we got some players here. Now my expectations that the guys that I have on my staff is that we coach our guys up and we get better. We got players. We got pieces here now, okay? The expectations is to take the next step. Okay, I want to take the next step, and I think that comes from good teachers, okay? My coaches, I have new coaches here. I have some guys that have been here for a while. I got to make sure we're doing everything the right way to make sure that we put the best product on the field and that everyone is on the same page.
Good one to end on, and we will have the broadcast of the spring game on Saturday, April 4th from the DU field, so make sure you join us for that one. We'll have the broadcast a little before 2 o'clock with that. Sparky, hey, it's getting excited already. It's about time to do it. Before you know it, we'll be at Uccello's doing your weekly coaches show there, and the season will be here, but you got a lot of work to do between now and then, and looks like a good time.
I'm so excited. I'm excited about this group of football players coming in because, this is one of the first times that we've got talent from top to bottom. I mean, every place that we've taken a kid, it is just we're building a depth. And we're excited about this, and we got bigger numbers. It should be a lot of fun.
All right, for those of you who join us again, watching it early, stay on DUPanthers.com on the football program to find the other additions to the program. That'll wrap it up for our third signing day special with Coach McEwen. So for Sparky McEwen, the head coach, I'm Rick Berkey saying thanks for joining us, and go Panthers.